Hey everyone, it's Carissa Wiley. Thanks for joining me today for this October 2018 edition of the Ellen Hutson newsletter. Today we're going to look at a gift card holder card design that also has a little shaker element. And I'm going to be featuring the Essentials by Ellen Parcel Box Die Set. Now I love this die set because not only does it come with the main box, but there's all these fun little add-on things as well that can be used on card projects. There's a little banner and a bow, a tiny little tag, as well as this little banner shape. And then you have the main box and a little rectangle that's sized to fit perfectly on top of the box. So I'm making 2 cards today, and I'm going to cut down some Neenah Solar White 80-pound cardstock, and I'm going to die cut 2 of these parcel boxes as well as that little rectangle shape. I'm die cutting all of these at the same time. So because I'm going through 2 layers of cardstock, I'm going to add a metal shim to my die cutting sandwich. And I decided that using the 80-pound cardstock was, I thought, a little bit better because I was getting crisper fold lines with the 80-pound cardstock than I was with the 110-pound cardstock. So that's completely up to you. If you want to use a heavier weight cardstock, you can. So I've run this through my Gemini Junior die cutting machine, and now I have 2 of my box shapes and 2 of this little rectangle. Now this is going to be the backer for my shaker element on my card front. Now in order to make a frame for this little shaker element, I'm taking the rectangle that I just die cut, that's a part of the Parcel Box Die Set, and I'm taking 1 size smaller rectangle. I actually got this from the My Favorite Things A2 size rectangle stack set. I think it's the Rectangle Stacks 2. And so I placed that inside of that larger rectangle, and I ran those through, and that creates a little frame. Now I also need a piece of acetate that's going to fit behind that frame. So I'm just cutting down some of this clear plastic from the Essentials by Ellen line. And then I'm going to start building up my shaker element. Now the cool thing about this shaker element is that it actually moves with the box as it opens. So the recipient doesn't have to pull apart the box or disassemble the entire card to get to the gift card that's going to be held inside the parcel box. So I think this is a really fun design. I'm starting out by adding some score tape all around the back side of this frame piece that I created. I'm going to remove the backer, and then I'm going to place it right over that clear plastic sheet that I cut down. So this is going to be the top of my shaker element. Then I'm going to cut some foam adhesive down into some really thin strips, and I'm going to place that all around that back side of the frame. And I'm just making sure that the foam adhesive butts up to the one that's next to it so that all of the shaker elements are contained within that foam adhesive. I don't want anything kind of leaking out when the recipient shakes it around. Now, if you're going to use some micro beads or glitter or something like that, that's especially important that you make sure that those all kind of push up next to each other. So I'm going to set those shaker elements aside, and now I'm going to start working on my parcel box. And you can see here that this creates the score lines for you. Now these little tabs that are on the side, I like to actually take and cut up that, it die cuts it, but I like to cut it up to that second score line. So I'm just taking my scissors and I'm snipping right along that line up to that second score line there. Just a little teeny snip with my scissors, and I find that makes it a little bit easier to kind of fold this box up. Now this parcel box is designed with kind of a gap in those larger flaps, and I want these flaps to come together to where they meet up. So what I'm doing is I'm taking these end flaps, these smaller flaps, and I'm cutting kind of like this triangle shape from the corner up to that score line that's on the bottom of it. This is going to take away a little bit of the bulk of that flap and allow those larger outer flaps to come completely together on the card. So now that I have those little triangles cut out, I'm going to go ahead and fold up my box, and I'm using a bone folder to reinforce all of the score lines here. And if you're confused about how this box is designed with the gap, I'm going to show you that here in just a second. So now I have all of these score lines reinforced, and I'm going to fold in the tabs and fold in the smaller tabs on the end. And then I can take these larger tabs and fold that all in. And now it all meets up in the middle. Now, if you don't take your scissors and snip off that little triangle portion that I did, this is what you're going to end up with. This is a totally unaltered parcel box die cut here. Do you see that little gap there in the center? Now, that would be okay, especially since I'm covering a large part of this with the shaker element. But if you want those larger tabs to meet up, you're going to want to take your scissors and just trim out that little triangle piece. It doesn't have to be precise. Just kind of take it about 1/4 of an inch in and cut at a diagonal down to that score line. Now, once I have these parcel boxes and the shaker elements all assembled, they're going to go on a 4-bar sized card base, and that measures about 3.5 inches by 4 7/8. So I've made my cards using some mint cardstock, and I'm stamping with some Hero Arts Unicorn White pigment ink onto this card base. And I'm using this My Favorite Things snowfall backdrop. I love snowfall backdrops because they can be used as confetti or as snow. Now, this is giving me a really soft effect with this snowfall backdrop, and I end up going back later and using some white embossing powder to make it a little more intense. And I'll show you that here in just a little bit. But for now, I want to go ahead and build up my shaker pieces. So I decided to use that same mint cardstock for the backer of my shaker box. So I just used the larger rectangle, the one that is included in the Parcel Box Die Set, and I die cut that mint cardstock as well. And now I'm filling my shaker box parts with some flatter types of sequins. I'm using some gold confetti, some Studio Katia iridescent confetti, and some 3mm sparkling clear sequins from Pretty Pink Posh. Once I have that shaker area kind of filled with all of my elements, I'm going to remove the backer from the foam adhesive, and I am going to place this mint piece on the back. So this is all sealed in there, and I have my shaker part to go on front of my parcel box die. Now I want to be able to place the shaker element on the parcel box die, but still allow my parcel box to open. So I'm taking it and I'm placing some foam adhesive just on the bottom edge of the back side of this little shaker element that I've created. And I am going to kind of seal up my shaker box using a piece of delicate surface painter's tape just so I can get this shaker element onto the front of the box, and I'm going to adhere it. So it's only adhered using that foam adhesive along the bottom, and you can see that's going to allow my shaker box to open, or the shaker element to move with that bottom flap of this parcel box. Now I decided to go ahead and seal up 3 sides of my parcel box. So I'm just adding a little bit of score tape to these flaps, these smaller flaps on the inside. And I'm going to take that and I'm going to fold that larger flap onto that adhesive. I'm just removing the backer here. Sometimes you have to fuss with that just a little bit. And then I'm going to take that larger flap and fold it down onto the adhesive that's on the smaller flaps. And I'm just making sure that all of my score lines and my corners meet up here before I press this down. So I'm working on one side, and then I'll get the other one lined up, and then I'll press that down. Now, this box is not deep in dimension at all, so I can't get my big O fingers in there. So I'm just taking my bone folder and I'm slipping it inside the box to kind of press those tabs together and make sure it's all adhered there really well on the inside. And now that I have this assembled, I'm just kind of checking to make sure this is going to work the way I thought it was, and it is. So I can move on with my card creation process. Now I'm going to create my own tag using these block word dies from the Essentials by Ellen line. So I'm taking the one that says happy, and I am just adhering it onto a strip of cardstock and running it through my die cut machine. I'm going to do this twice on that same strip, and then I'm going to cut them apart and cut these into tag shapes. So I'm going to just kind of create some marks for me to cut, and then I'm going to cut diagonally from that mark down to the edge of my tag. This is going to give me the tag topper shape. And you can see I'm doing this out of some craft cardstock here. I actually went back and did it out of black. I liked it a lot better. But I have that tag shape created. Now I'm just embossing some sentiments to go along with that happy. One's going to say birthday, and that birthday sentiment is from the Totally Random Sayings Volume 2 stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line. And I just partially inked up this Merry Christmas stamp, so I just get the word Christmas. I'm heat embossing that with some gilded embossing powder from Brutus Monroe. And this stamp is from the Mondo Holly stamp set from the Essentials by Ellen line. So once I have both of those embossed, I trim them down into little strips, and I'm going to use just a little bit of liquid adhesive behind the embossing to adhere these over those knockout tags. So one says Happy Birthday, one says Happy Christmas. Now, originally I had cut these frames out of pink cardstock, which I think works really well for the birthday card, but I really wanted to bring in some red for the Christmas card. So I went ahead and just recut that frame and adhered it right over the top of the pink frame to give it more of a Christmas vibe. Now, to keep this box closed on the front of this card, I'm going to use some black and white baker's twine. And I've gone ahead and tied it in place on my parcel box to make sure I have it where I want it. And then I'm going to flip it over, and I'm going to hold this twine in place on the back of this parcel box using some score tape. So I'm just holding that in place. And then I'm going to add some foam adhesive all over the back of this parcel box. So this card is going to have some dimension. It may be one that you either mail in like a small gift box or card box, or that you hand out in person. It's not a flat card by any means, because not only is there a box on the front of the card, but there's foam adhesive as well. So just keep that in mind. And then I removed the backer from the foam adhesive, and I placed this onto some pattern paper, and that's from a new My Favorite Things 6x6 paper pad that has some really fun designs in it for the holidays. But I'm also going to use that same pattern paper pad for my birthday card version as well. So here's where I decided I wanted that snowfall backdrop to show up a little bit better, so I went ahead and inked this up in some Versamark ink. I stamped it on the back side of this card. It didn't really bother me that the other side was already stamped with the pigment ink. And then I just added my white embossing powder and heat set that, and you can see there's much brighter white image on this card front. Then I'm going to take this entire parcel box piece that's been matted onto that pattern paper. I'm going to add some tape runner adhesive along the back of it, and I'm going to place it onto my card base. And then I've gone ahead and just added my little Happy Christmas tag there. And those little elements at the upper right-hand corner are from the new Essentials by Ellen Holiday Shopper Lady stamp set. And that balloon is from the Essentials by Ellen Party Lady or Celebration Lady. I can't remember which leading lady it was, but I will have it linked in the description below. So here's my finished projects, and I wanted to show you how this worked. The recipient can just untie the box, and you can go ahead and just slip a gift card or something like that in there. Then you can close it up and tie it again, and then you have your little gift card holder shaker box on the front of your card. And I've gone ahead and done two different versions, a holiday version as well as a birthday version, to show you that the same layout can work year round. And I think this is such a fun way to give a gift card. I think anybody who gets these is not going to be able to resist shaking away, and I think it's a fun surprise to have that flap just kind of open down and reveal the gift card. You may want to put a little note inside the card itself saying to open the box on the front of the card, just so they don't miss the fact that there's a gift card in there. Now there's a lot going on. I'm not sure exactly what you would call these. Maybe a gift card holder shaker box card. I'm not real sure, but I think these were so much fun to put together, and I cannot wait to give them to the recipients. As always, I will have links to the featured products in the description at YouTube, but head on over to the Coordinating Ellen Hutson blog post. Over there, I'll have more still shots, more information, and a complete list of supplies for you. As always, thanks for stopping by and hanging out with me today. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel so you won't miss any of our paper crafting and card making video tutorials. As always, I'm so glad you stopped by, and until next time, I hope you have a fabulous day. Hey, thanks for sticking around to the very end. You know, if you've made it this far, you're one of my favorites. If you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, go ahead and click that button on the left side of the screen. And here's a couple more video tutorials I thought you might enjoy.